Alright, so we just finished talking about the cells, right? We had, let me go back there, the Hadley cell, the Farrell cell, and the polar cell. Now, you'll notice on here it says something about an equatorial low, subtropical high, and subpolar low. Sorry, subpolar low right there. So let's talk about what those are. So if we had the idealized world, where, again, water world, not the movie, the equatorial low is also called the ITCZ, which is the Intertropical Convergence Zone. And basically what's happening here is, well, A, it's a low. We know what lows mean, right? Bad weather. And convergence zone, because what's happening, go back to that photo here, we have the northeast trade winds coming towards the equator and the southeast trade winds coming towards the equator. So it's getting wind from both north and south. So when you get lots of air from both sides, we know in Florida, we get air from the Gulf and the Atlantic, and what happens? We get rain, right? Usually afternoon clouds. This is coming from the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere converging all the time. So it's not that they get afternoon storms. An equatorial low would get all of the air, so it would rise up and get storms all the time. So you'd have clouds all the time, you'd have rising air all the time, you would have low pressure, which means you would have lots of precipitation all of the time. So on a water world, the equator is not where you want to live. Where you would want to live would be this subtropical high. Well, what's a high? Well, high pressure would give you clear skies, right? Sinking air, warm, dry weather, because you're still topping subtropical high. Lastly, you have the subpolar low. Even if you like the cold, this is not the place to go. Why? Because low, right? Low pressure, lots of precipitation, lots of clouds. And again, it's another convergence. Another one that's not on that initial picture was the polar high. So if you liked cold weather, you'd want to go up and live at the polar high, not the subpolar low. Usually you want to live, well, with Santa Claus. Or South Pole Santa Claus. But you want to live at the very top, because that's where the high is. The sinking air, high pressure, clear skies. So this is what it looks like. Your water world, you've got your equatorial low, your trade winds going into the equatorial low, your subtropical high. See what's happening here? Your winds are going away from that high. Makes sense. And then you have your subpolar low. The winds are going into that subpolar low. That polar high, the winds are going away from the poles. And it's the same on this South Hemisphere as well. Sadly, that's not what we have on Earth. We have these things called continents. I don't know if you've heard of them. We like to live on them. So we mess everything up. Now, you will notice, though, there is an equatorial low. It doesn't quite go straight across. It's got little bends and folds in it, but it is pretty much there. And then you have the subtropical high. So if this landmass wasn't here, we would probably be pretty good, you know, in the Bahamas and in Florida and not have to worry about lows like hurricanes or storms or anything like that. But of course we have to get in the way. And you have the subpolar lows. You see them right there? They got split up because of the continents. And then you have your polar high. Again, in the Southern Hemisphere, you have the same thing. That would have been your whole subtropical high. Not as much land down here, so it's easier for it to kind of match the ideal. And then you have your subpolar lows and your polar high. So if you're looking in January and July, January is the top, July is the bottom, you can see, okay, there's the ITCZ, the equatorial low. Oh, but look what happened. That's not the equator last I checked. Right? Because things get in the way. But if you look here, oh, that's nice. The high and the high, they do stay. right? The high down here, the high down here are pretty much the same. So if you want to go live somewhere nice, I guess this would be the area to go. It would be somewhat good. Well, it would be the most consistent, right? Unless you can find an island in here, which there are quite a few islands in here that you could live on.